Bonjour et bienvenue au webinaire du Forum sur les infrastructures vertes du Pays de Galles. Boradar a chroeso cynnes I webinar Forum Seilwaith Werdd Cymru. The city of Paris is rightly proud of its architecture and planned layout, but in 2003 all that stone, steel and concrete proved to be its undoing when thousands of elderly and vulnerable people died in an unprecedented heatwave. Research showed that those living close to green space were less likely to die, and since then the City of Light has been on a path to become a city of green. To tell us more about how that transformation happened and its effects so far, we're fortunate to be joined today by Léa Gratas, International Projects Manager for the Urban Ecology Agency of the City of Paris. Before I hand over to Léa, here's how today's webinar will work. Léa will present for 20 minutes, and while she's speaking, please keep your microphones on mute, or every time you get home delivery, her audio will drop out. While Léa's presenting, please post your questions to her in the chat. And if you have any problems with the technology, please post those in the chat too, so I can try to resolve them. We'll have a chance for an in-depth conversation with Léa after her presentation. I'll go through the questions in the chat, and I'll ask you to turn on your camera and microphone to ask your question directly. That will spark off more questions, so please use Zoom's virtual hand-raising function to let me know you've got a question, and again, I'll come round to you to ask it. If you're cut off for any reason during the webinar, please close and restart Zoom, then use the original link in your email to reconnect. After 40 minutes, Zoom will automatically end our webinar. However, if discussions are still going strong, we can extend our time until 11 o'clock, when I promised I'd release Léa. To continue with the extended discussion, please close and restart Zoom, then use the original link in your email to reconnect. As always, I'll record both the webinar and discussion and post them to our Green Infrastructure Forum YouTube channel, so you or anyone with an interest can watch them again. If no one has any questions about how the webinar will work, I'd like to hand you over to Léa Gratas, International Projects Manager for the Urban Ecology Agency of the City of Paris. Léa, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, Peter, for the beautiful introduction, and I'm really pleased to be part of this webinar. I hope the presentation will give you a little sense of what's happening in Paris right now and all the action we took and how it goes on today. So, as Peter just said, Paris is really a city well known for its urban architecture and heritage. Here you have some pictures of very famous places such as the Eiffel Tower, the Arc of Triomphe, really well-known park. But we do face territorial challenges. And one of them will be that Paris is one of the densest cities in Europe, and this is really something we need to do with in order to transform the city. And what I would say is that we faces many territorial challenges, especially due to density. So what we do face is social and environmental challenges. For environmental challenges, the main ones will be floods, air and noise pollutions, and also heat waves, as Peter mentioned. We do have also social issues, such as housing in Paris. It's really difficult right now. And also we are facing the shrinking and aging of our population. So during this mandate, our elected, that is to say our Mayor Anne Hidalgo and also our Deputy Mayor Christophe Najewski and Audrey Boulbard, decided to act swiftly and to adapt the city to climate change. That is to say, we have done many studies that led us to the need to take action really fast in order to adapt the city. Here is the example of research that was kind of a prospective research that helped us understand the environment of Paris, of I would say an unwanted scenario with Paris at 50 degrees. And so we need to adapt the city to avoid this kind of situation. To do this, the city of Paris set strategic plans in order to adapt the city to climate change. So the main one would be the Climate Action Plan that set the guidelines on how to adapt the city to climate change. And then we do have many other plans that are regulatory, but also draw the guidelines through a specific subject. We will go through a little bit of the urban master plan and also our biodiversity plan. But creating this framework really helps us set actions. And so we have here, I would say that we can have three main drivers for action. The first one would be having an example municipality. The second one would be how to support and engage citizen, private and semi-private sectors. And the last one is creating a regulatory framework in guiding and reinforcing the greening of the city. So first of all, the municipality can have action where the city have full control and ownerships, which translate into having action into our public spaces and also our public facilities to improve the quality of the living environment of the parish. For instance, here we greened the Boulevard Pasteur, and this was a great action because we greened the space on a long and really large perimeter, which enhanced the quality of the living environment and also increase the host of biodiversity in those places. We also have, I would say, a global to local action with the Embellishing Your Neighborhood program, which means that the city is divided in many districts, and each district of Paris is really studied and is really studied with the inhabitants in order to rethink the public space of the whole district, and often the design lead to greening the streets and also the squares, but in strategic points that inhabitants identify and that also takes into account the technical constraints of the places, such as, I would say, network, for instance. So these are really local action, but we do have plenty of local actions so that it helps us having a global and implement a global strategy of greening Paris. Another action would be also to have impactful project in order to demonstrate that the city is adapting and adapting fast. We had the Olympic Game in 2024, and this really kind of boosts the public action in the city. We wanted to demonstrate that Paris can adapt to climate change, so we built we redesigned the Catalan Square, which was a really mineral square in Paris, and now we implemented what we call an urban forest. So it's a concept that is in between that rethink, I would say, public spaces into increasing the number of trees, but also making a design that really is I would say great, or more livable for biodiversity, because we do have spaces inaccessible to the public, and also more pedestrian spaces. So those are the main impactful projects, and we do have also the Hôtel de Ville Square, which is the City Hall Square. And that was a really ambitious project because we also had to deal with a lot of heritage, I would say, questions on how we transform the city, but also how we keep our famous urban architecture. So this would be for public spaces, and we also do have a strategy to green our municipal facilities. So here you have the example of the program that helps us green the schoolyards, which is Oasis Schoolyards. And so this created a friendly environment for kids with more natural spaces, increased vegetation, and a better rainwater management and water points, but which also creates an environment more playful for kids and more quiet, and also more a better, I would say, space distribution for inclusion. So once we greened all the schoolyards, we also green the outside of the school to keep this playful environment. As the city is really dense, there is not so much space for kids to be outside. So we wanted to pedestrian streets and also to make them more safer for our kids. For instance, there is no cars going in those streets, so they are really secured, and this help having a safer, quieter, greener environment for kids. So another action I would like to highlight is the greening of public roof and roofs. So we do have now a really nice roof on many schools of Paris, and also we green the municipal roof wherever we can. So those are like few examples of municipal action, but we also need to involve other stakeholders into the greening of Paris. And that would lead to the involvement of citizens and Parisians by providing spaces and activities that allow them to participate in the greening initiatives and understand them. So here you have the example of some shared and educational gardens that are really working well in Paris. And here is also a set of actions that took place in Paris. We do have actions, for instance, for counting butterflies. And we also have a set of free activities that are including in Nature à Paris program, so that citizens can really be involved in the greening of the city and understand all the huge transformation that are going on. So we need to include the citizens, but we also need to engage the private sectors and semi-private sector into acting for nature and implementing green infrastructure. So we do design some tools. So this one is an example. It's a guide. It's a guide to green and cultivate roofs. So this is for everyone who wants to have a project in Paris of construction of a renewal of a place. We also developed the biodiscover tool, which enable urban project manager or urban developer to integrate the principle of biodiversity and friendly urbanism into their project. And so all those tools are really accessible and free of access. And we do have also staff in our municipality that will will help all those stakeholders to understand the mechanism, understand the tools, and are also here to guide them in their project if they want. We do also concretely support action with technical and financial support for greening private condominiums, let's say in Paris, the roof, the walls, and all the courtyards. But also we want to have everyone taking action, but we also do have to regulate, and we also do have to have an overall strategy of Paris. So we voted this year the Urban Master Plan of Paris, and this includes a huge part of action towards biodiversity. So here is a set of two really concrete examples on what we ask project manager to have in their project in order to obtain their building permits or development permit, for instance. The first one will be really creating links between the building and the soil in terms of vegetation in order to help biodiversity to develop everywhere they can and to highlight the path of the flora and the fauna. And we also identify places where we're in, I would say, undergreened area. And so a particular effort is asked in those districts to the project leader to green more their urban projects, let's say. And so we also go a little bit further to involve all the stakeholders. We have an overall biodiversity strategy. This is not a regulatory document, but it engages all the urban stakeholders to take action toward the enhancement of biodiversity. So today, impacts are real, and as a Parisian myself, I witness the transformations. The map you have here shows the increase of tree planting and the numerous number of new fresh spots in Paris. That is to say, in case of heat waves, you have now places where you can go in order to support better the climate situation. But however, I would say that the transformation is quite recent, so we are now obtaining the result of monitoring, but the assessment process is still ongoing. And still, if we are still assessing all the results, we really learned from this acceleration of the greening of the city. First, I would say that clear and structured guidelines really help us in the massive greening, let's say, of Paris. We also have to say that we really prioritize the budget for nature in Paris in every way. As you can see, we support financially stakeholders, and also all the projects have a cost, let's say, but it's a sustainable cost, I would say. And yes, what I also need to tell you is that communication is key with all the stakeholders outside of the city, but also in the city. We really rethink our way to work in Paris because we have different departments. I work at the Green Spaces and Environment Department, but we also have a Mobility Department and a Sanitation Department. And so during this mandate, we really learn to work all together to have a new kind of public space. So this was really, I would say, a turning point on our approach of Paris. And I would finish by saying that we learn by doing a lot in Paris. And so now we have, I would say, a lot of capacity building that we are really proud of, and we know that we can extend. maybe to other projects or other way to think how to adapt to climate change. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Léa. I'm incredibly impressed with your presentation and making that through through your second language. I couldn't do that. So merci
Thank you so much.
encore. We've already got some questions in the chat, so I wonder if I could turn to uh, Dr. Goodfellow Smith. Mike, could you unmute yourself and ask your question to Leah?
Thank you. Merci, Léa, pour votre présentation. Paris has a reputation for public participation in budget allocation and project identification. How much budget is allocated to the greening of Paris, and how much budget is put into the hands of the public to allocate to their favored approaches?
I won't have a complete answer. I would say on how much everything costs, but I can give you maybe some key points. The first one would be on the engagement of citizens. We do have a participatory budget. And so the participative budget is a program where citizens vote for which project they want to implement in the city. And there are huge resources allocated to that. It's about 5% of the overall budget. And so a large part of the budget went to greening public spaces, like renewing parks or extend parks in Paris. So each year, 5% of the budget is dedicated to the participatory budget program. So that would be my first answer. The second answer would be more on the project themselves. For instance, impactful projects are expensive, that is true, but also we try to make them sustainable in different ways. For instance, the square of Hotel de Ville costs about 6 million to the city of Paris, so it's quite a huge cost. But other places would cost a little bit less to the city. I'm just taking a look to the Saramono Square. We did a great job of rethinking also how we can design and replicate actions in Paris. We had a particular attention on where we have our own vegetation, because we have our own tree nursery and plant nursery in Paris. So then all the cost of implementing green vegetation is quite low for us. And also we have a particular attention on the metallic, for instance. I would say all the public furniture is really standardized. So we know the cost and we know also how to maintain it, so it won't cost too much in time. However, we do have also to take care of the cost of the maintenance of all this new greening, and we don't know actually how much it's gonna cost in the future, but we know it will be a side effect of greening.
And Mike, you've already posted another couple of questions. So before anybody else gets the chance to leap in, and I would encourage everybody to post their questions in the chat. Uh, you've asked, does what Paris is doing spreading out to other cities in France?
Indeed, I'd love to know, because France is obviously being challenged at the moment with increased temperature extremes coming up from the south of the country. And the more that the rest of the country learns from Paris, the better, really.
Léa.
I would say that each city inspires each other. For instance, we really get inspired from Lyon, for instance, in the greening of the public spaces. And we do have some moments where different cities can exchange. But I wouldn't say that we are the example, but it's more like we get inspired from everywhere. Let's say that way, because we do also get really inspired from the other city, even on the outskirts of Paris. All those cities are facing different challenges, and especially social challenges mainly, and they are implementing many green infrastructure, many massive green infrastructure that are truly inspiring for Paris.
Merci. Somebody who's identified as Lisme has asked a question in the chat. Could you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Pete. It's Liz Mills here. Sorry, this is a new computer, and it's the first time I've used Zoom on it, so it's shortened my name there. Yes, my question is about the European context. The EU has set a target for no net land take by 2050, and France has also adopted this. And I think in France there's an aim to reduce net land take by half by 2031, so an interim goal. And of course, this calls for re-densification of urban areas and reuse of brownfields. So I'm wondering how this impacts on the Paris's green city strategy. Do they fit together okay?
I would say that it's actually quite easy for Paris, but no net loss, because we can't really expand ourselves. It's already a really dense city, so we won't extend too much because we can't. Everything is already built, and the few programs that are still constructing sites also include a huge part of green spaces. So I would say that we do face density, but we won't extend the city. I don't know if that answers your questions, or let me know.
So thank you, merci, entendu.
And we've got a question from Lucy Taylor. Lucy, could you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Thanks so much for the presentation. Very good. Yeah, Lucy Taylor from Social Farms and Gardens. I was just wondering about who maintains all of this green space, and who pays for it. Is it the city, or is it a combination of developers and the city? Are you paying a lot of money to people to garden the city?
So what we are really lucky in Paris, because we do areas of Alpha strategy, who created all the network of garden parks in the Haussmann period. And what we inherit is really a system of garden and park in terms of spatial, but also in terms of organization. So we do have the tradition of having our gardeners in-house, and we keep this tradition. So all the garden and parks of Paris are maintained by our own gardeners that we do pay. So to answer your question, yes, the city is paying for all the maintenance of greening, and we are actively researching more gardeners, because it's a job that isn't really attractive, is not really attractive, especially in the city like Paris, like gardeners prefer to go in over cities with more green spaces, I would say, and do not have to face the pressure of working in a really dense and really in a really dense city.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I've got a question for Léa. Before we swap onto our discussion session. And I'd like to know more about Paris's approach to using nature-based solutions for managing your rainwater and floodwater. Could you tell us more about those and the impact it's had on the quality of the water in the River Seine?
So first of all, the underground of Paris is really specific. The first thing is that we do have massive network, but like everywhere in every capital city, let's say the subway, the underground train, etc., etc. But we also have a specific underground that do not allows too much water to go under. I don't know if it's the same word in English, but it's gypsum. And so this is a huge difficulty for us. So we now know where the gypsum places are in Paris, and we do establish a kind of map to know where we can directly infiltrate the water and where we can't. However, having more and more green space help also to reduce the flow that go directly to the sewer system. So this really help also gaining time into the treatment of the rainwater and also to lower the timing of delivering the rainwater into the river Seine. So it really helps, but we faces underground challenges that do not allow us to unseal everywhere in Paris, although we do have the objective to unseal more than 40% of our land in 2030. In 2030. So this would be my answer. And also for the river Seine, now it's a swimmable place, so we are really, really happy about that. But this was a massive effort from, I would say, like 10 years action to have today the river Seine swimmable. And so we really had to engage all the partners, let's say the industrial above the river Seine, also all the cities to have healthier water that can be now swimmable. So this is a huge strategy with a lot of investment in this project, but we are really rewarded. We do have now more than 30 different fish species in the water, and like 10 years ago there were only 3. So it's really amazing.
That is a remarkable success story. Well, before we automatically close and restart for our discussion, Mike's got a question about. Oh, Mike, would you unmute yourself and ask it?
Thank you. Well, there's a technical one, which was is uplift in property value around improved green infrastructure recaptured by the city to reinvest? That's a slightly technical financial question. But I suppose from a strategic perspective, I was taken with one of your documents, which was entitled something like, Can Paris cope with temperatures of 50 degrees? Or let's get prepared for 50 degrees. I mean, that's quite a statement for a city to make. How are you coping? How will you get to a point of being able to deal with temperatures at that level, which I've actually experienced in working, and it's frightful.
I don't know if I did well understand your question. the one was about the financing of all the green infrastructure.
Yes, I'm sorry. I asked two questions and I spoke too quickly. I'm sorry. So
Sorry.
the first question was, is the increased value of property around improved green infrastructure captured in what I would call uplift and recycled it into further investment? That's the first question.
Okay, maybe if we hold it there because we're going to be cut off in a minute and a half. So could you
Ah,
address that one first, Leah, and we'll come back and answer the one about temperature afterwards.
yes, like we do see that that when the space is regreen, they are an impact on the real estate market, and some of the investment go directly to the city, but also we also witness fewer and fewer, let's say, property buying. I don't know if it's the true word in Paris. So yeah, we don't really know today the assessment of on which impact it has on the economic part of greening, because the other thing is that we do want to green everywhere, especially in vulnerable space that also include social issues, but we don't want to exclude the greening strategy of those places, because everyone needs greening, but we also have to be really balanced with facing gentrification.